the top players' approach to the openings has changed enormously in the last few years. In the past, most players would prefer one or two openings. Maybe they would change over time during their careers, but they would stick to the same openings. But nowadays, a lot of top players, play a variety of openings. This is necessary to avoid computer preparation by their opponents, so they are more unexpected when they sit at the board.
Την εποχή λοιπόν του ρομαντισμού, μιλάμε τώρα για την περίοδο 1400, 500, 600 και 700, ήταν σύνηθες φαινόμενο οι θυσίες να γίνονται αποδεκτές από τους σκακιστές. Ίσως ήταν και φαινόμενο των καιρών, δηλαδή η εποχή των υποτών, να το πούμε έτσι, τότε που ο καθένας εκεί πέρα όταν δεχόταν με το γάντι ένα χτύπημα, θα έπρεπε, αυτό ήταν άμεση πρόκληση για μονομαχία, ανεξαρτήτως και αν ήξερε ότι είναι και πιο αδύναμος. Όμως ήταν θέμα τιμής. Ίσως αυτό να επηρέαζε και το γεγονός που στις θυσίες τις δεχόντουσαν. Από την άλλη μεριά, οι αμυντικές ικανότητες των σκακιστών τότε δεν ήταν ανεπτυγμένες και γι' αυτό το σκάκι το επιθετικό ανθούσε εκείνα τα χρόνια.
A very good example of the difference of this approach is different variations that are being used by different players. For example, during the classical era of chess, around the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, the Berlin variation, Berlin defense to the Ruy Lopez was very popular, especially in world championship matches. But with a different approach than today. In the past, the idea was to simply equalize with black. For example, arrange for an exchange of pawns, so white's d pawn to black's e pawn, so that in the end, what would remain on the board in the center would be white's e pawn and black's d pawn. And that would create a slight imbalance because white's pawn would be on the 4th rank and black's pawn would be on the 6th rank, which would be his 3rd rank, and that would provide white with some space advantage.
To tell the truth, I don't think that I play anytime Berlin defense because I don't like to play this either white or black. And this is quite difficult to understand. In the beginning, when Kramnik started, from Kramnik's hand it started because he became a world champion by Berlin defense, beat Garry Kasparov. It was a surprise for everybody because nobody believes that Berlin defense can survive so long time. So it looks like this that with computers and of course deep analysis, such a defense like the Berlin defense become the opening which one survives for a long term. And now it's clear that now many players are playing. I just don't like, my style is a little bit different, and it's there is the understanding of this opening. It's not so simple. You have to work a lot. This is the opening which one you really have to spend many hours to understand well. Which one I don't like in my life to spend many hours for the opening. I like more improvisation, and this opening is not giving you door for the improvisation. You have to be very clear analysis, and this is for good workers.
Yes.
Not for me.
Ναι, για η ισπανική παρτίδα ήταν ένα άνοιγμα πάρα πολύ παλιό, που όμως ένας Ισπανός σκακιστής, ο Ρόι Λοπέζ, έκανε λίγο πιο εμπεριστατωμένες μελέτες πάνω σε αυτό εδώ τον τρόπο παιχνιδιού και γι' αυτό φέρει και τις δύο ονομασίες Ισπανική παρτίδα ή Ρόι Λοπέζ. Η Ισπανική παρτίδα λοιπόν από τα παλιά ανοίγματα παίζεται μέχρι και σήμερα και μάλιστα κάποιες βαριάντες που μπορεί να ήταν παλιές σήμερα ξαναέρχονται στο παιχνίδι των σύγχρονων σκακιστών με κάπως πιο διαφορετικό τρόπο παιχνιδιού και βλέπουμε μάλιστα να παίζεται πάρα πολύ η άμυνα του Βερολίνου, μια άμυνα από πλευράς μαύρου που σκοπό έχει να ανταλλάξει τις βασίλισσες, να παίξουν ένα πολύ στρατηγικό παιχνίδι, να οδηγηθεί η παρτίδα σε φινάλε, κάτι που παλιότερα το θεωρούσαν ότι μάλλον ο Λευκός είχε ένα πλεονέκτημα, αλλά τώρα οι τεχνικές είναι τέτοιες που είναι πολύ δύσκολο ο Λευκός να βγάλει το πλεονέκτημα και μάλιστα ο Κράμνικ το χρησιμοποίησε με μεγάλη επιτυχία όταν έπαιζε εναντίον του Κασπάροφ ένας φουλ επιθετικός σκελιστής. Κατάφερε όλες τις παρτίδες που έπαιζε να τις κάνει ισοπαλία, δεν έχασε ούτε μία παρτίδα με τα μαύρα ο Κράμνικ. Αντιθέτως, κατάφερε όταν ήταν αυτός Λευκός να κερδίσει κανένα δύο παρτίδες και να πάρει μάλιστα και το παγκόσμιο πρωτάθλημα.
Now, in the modern era of chess, the Berlin defense is played in a completely different way. Kramnik developed a very interesting approach in his match against Kasparov in 2000 to gain the world championship from him. What he did is he decided to play a variation of the Berlin defense that gave White a significant space advantage and also a significant structural advantage. What he did is he allowed Kasparov to exchange queens and also deprived Black of his rights to castle, as well as obtain a pawn majority on the king side. The reason Kramnik did that is that in this way he diminished the dynamic possibilities available to White, since without queens it would be much more difficult to attack, and also White's pawn majority on the king side could not be used very effectively with pawn breaks. It was very difficult to effect any significant pawn breaks on the king side. Therefore, Kramnik said that he would be willing to suffer defensively for a while, since he could hold the position anyway. So the big difference is that instead of trying to equalize with Black, he would accept a worse position that he considered defensible. Now, one important development of this approach is that many different players with completely different styles assumed the Kramnik's approach. For example, Anand, a much more attacking player, Topalov, a much more aggressive player, and Carlsen, a much more universal player, all play this Berlin approach that was initiated by Kramnik. It is worth noting that in the last two World Championship matches between Anand and Carlsen, both players used this Berlin variation as both white and black.
I explained this actually why, because I told you that Kramnik at that time, because to beating Kasparov we have to work a lot and we have to produce something. And he produced, he worked a lot, he understand with his team that with this opening will somehow change balance of the Kasparov. I'm talking about his emotional balance, because in the beginning probably Kasparov don't understand. He, as usually great player, they think like this, okay, Kramnik played this because he want to surprise me, but he never will repeat like this. And he was surprised when he repeat, and he became, of course, absolutely disorganized. I'm telling you, and his team become absolutely disorganized. He cannot, when he understand it for short period, he cannot crush this opening. So this disadvantage of the opening. But again, I'm repeating what I will say. This is not opening for those who want to have a lot of improvisation. This is opening for hard workers.
Regarding, for example, the Berlin defense that we talked about earlier, one aspect of Kramnik's approach was that he predicted that Kasparov would be frustrated by not being able to attack in this variation of the Berlin defense. And this is actually what happened. Kasparov became almost angry and spent too much time and too much energy preparing for how to refute the Berlin defense, which was not really refutable, and that really assisted Kramnik very much in winning the World Championship. Another interesting aspect of the Berlin defense nowadays is that it's not just the top players that have adopted it. Many grandmasters use it, and one of the big reasons is that it's not easily susceptible to computer preparation. Because after this exchange of coins, there is something like a wall erected between the white and the black side. It's very difficult to initiate direct contact in an advantageous way. This means that there are many moves that are almost equal between each other available to both players, so there is no concrete calculation involved for some time. And that means that it's very difficult to feed the computer with a line and get a response that there is any guarantee that is better than some other. In effect, that means that people have to rely on their own intuition and judgment much more than to rely on computer assessments and calculation. This, for example, is a reason why the Berlin defense is often played much more than the Sicilian defense nowadays, because the Sicilian defense is susceptible to calculation and computer preparation, so it's more difficult to avoid the opponent's preparation. The Berlin defense takes care of that problem. I had a very interesting experience myself regarding emotions during a chess game. I played in the World Chess Olympiad back in 1982. And during one of the days I was not playing for my team, I was being replaced by somebody else. I came to the playing hall, which was a very big playing hall, hosting about 1,000 players, with a 5-minute delay. And as soon as I entered the playing hall, I felt very strong vibrations. And soon I found out why. It was because there was a very significant game being played on between Korchnoi and Kasparov. This was an interesting game in two ways. The first way was because it was a battle of generations. Korchnoi was the old guard and Kasparov was upcoming. And also because it was a very politically charged game, since Korchnoi was a defector from the Soviet Union and he was playing as a representative of Switzerland against the Soviet Union. So the closer one would get to their table, the stronger the vibrations were. You could feel the whole room vibrating and the tension really emanating from their table in terms of waves. There were waves of energy being distributed in the whole playing hall. And you could see that in the agitation of other players as well, because they would feel much more charged than in a normal day. It is usually considered that chess is a logical game, and while this is certainly true, people often underestimate the impact of emotions during a game. Chess players know very well that sentiments, different levels of sentiments can arise during a game. Not just in terms of general passion, but also in terms of hope, fear, desire to achieve some goal, and so on. A very interesting anecdote regarding that is about a journalist who was asked why does he go to follow chess tournaments since he doesn't know much about chess. And says, I don't really look at the board, I look below the table and I look at people's feet. People can be very immobile over the board in order not to betray their feelings, but under the table you can really understand what is happening, who is attacking, who is defending, who is maybe insecure, and so on. So there is a whole gamut of emotions during a game, and it's important that things are changing during a game in terms of emotions as well, not just in terms of the position. The most effective top players are very sensitive to their opponent's emotions, and they can understand at which point the opponent feels vulnerable, at which point he feels disappointed, or even at which point he feels very confident, even to the extent of becoming overconfident. And this is also dependent a lot on the position and the development, and that's why many people choose a specific opening, because this opening can allow them to develop a game, develop a strategy that's very compatible with their emotions. People that require more calm during the game, they would prefer normally a more quiet approach, while people that would revel on attacking chess, they would prefer a more attacking opening.
But of course, most important things, I was too much relaxing sometimes, and I pay a lot because of this.
Yes.
So normally, chess players have no right to relax during the game.
A chess trainer should not just be a good player. The chess level of the trainer depends obviously on the level of the trainees. If we're talking about younger children or players that are still on the initial stages of the chess development, it's much more important to be a good educator, to be sensitive to the specific needs of each player, its emotional state, and mostly its his level of understanding. The stronger a player becomes, the stronger the trainer should be. But again, like in other sports, it's not necessary for the trainer to be stronger than the player. It's much more important to understand the player needs and to design appropriate material and exercises for the player to perform.
It's a different, absolutely, emotion. I just follow great tournament. I was a supervisor in Moscow Candidates tournament. 8 great players played, and so all of them they are different. And you can see, for instance, how Aronian. I was following one game, and I understand now he will lose the game. From good position, he will lose the game because I feel that he cannot control his emotion. He started playing fast. What happened, I don't know, inside himself, but something happened during the game. Actually, he was playing with Swidler. Probably he was expecting that he will crash soon, because position was very impressive, his position. But, well, your opponent don't resign. He continued to defend. And suddenly something happened on your body or your soul, I don't know. And he started playing move by move, the worst move finding. I cannot imagine Aronian can play like this, but his emotional balance changed so much that it was guided by aliens at the time, not by himself. The others also, for example, like Giri, he's playing a different chess. He's absolutely quiet. He's controlling his emotions, like Caruana also. They are controlling. I don't know what is going inside themselves, but I believe that they are more or less better controlling than, for instance, Topalov or even Nakamura. But I'm telling you, all of them, they are different. I don't know what their feeling is during game. I'm telling you that almost all the time before the game, I have a feeling that this game I will lose.
Yes.
I have such a feeling because something is inside yourself, which one you cannot even explain. Something is changing inside yourself, and you have a feeling that now it's not my day.
One reason all this is very interesting is that it doesn't just touch on chess. Different approaches of the chess openings or of chess in general mirror in a way different ways of thinking that happen in any cultural zeitgeist. There was a very different zeitgeist at the beginning of the 20th century when it was the last time the Berlin defense was popular, and nowadays. From my previous comments, I believe it's very clear that today the thinking of chess players really mirrors the battle between human creativity and computer execution in general, and how we should try and work together with computer advances rather than against having humans battle computers. So in effect, modern chess is a combination of the human mind and the computer's capabilities. And for this reason, it's worth comparing chess in different eras with the chess of today.
Chess and emotions, okay. Best chess players, they have to control their emotions. This is without controlling emotion is impossible to play. And like this, I think it's a typical psychological problem. And it's not bad for chess player either to be so strong and to have auto training or to use a psychologist.
It is very important to understand that for the initial stages of chess development, a trainer should first of all instill love of the game to his pupils rather than help them in terms of technical aspects of the game. The stronger the player, the more the trainer should direct himself to technical details of the game. Modern chess training uses a variety of different methods and different educational methods. I can, for example, reveal a small secret of my methods that I use very often with players of different levels. When teaching a group of players, I will present them a critical position from a game by top players and ask them to make a choice between moves. Typically, almost half of the pupils will choose one move and the other half of will choose another move. So I will end up saying to the first half, congratulations, you played like a grandmasters, and to the second group, congratulations, you found the right move because the grandmaster played wrongly. So this has a very good positive effect because it ties the position emotionally to the players, and they get a much better learning opportunity since they remember the lesson in a much deeper way, tied to an emotion after the training session. A very important aspect of chess training is what we might call indirect learning. For example, when analyzing a position and we start thinking about various candidate moves that the player may choose from, we don't just learn about a specific position. At the same time, we're learning the procedure of analyzing candidate moves, comparing them with each other, and then selecting the most appropriate according to circumstances. This ability is cultivated systematically and then be used in various different kinds of chess positions and also in everyday life. When Judith Polgar, the strongest woman player in the history of chess, was still a very young girl, about 9 to 10 years old, she played in a tournament in Australia. And being very taken in by Australian animals, she decided to use a kangaroo as talisman, placing it next to the board to her before each game. One of her opponents decided to counter that by bringing in a crocodile and placing it next to the board himself. But it didn't really help him since Judith Polgar won that game.